Hello.
Hello.
Hey, George.
Good
Hello,
afternoon. Good
everyone.
morning, everyone,
Good
depending on where
morning,
you
good
are.
afternoon, good evening. Hello, hello. Nice to see you again. I've just been told that this is the second to last episode in season 2.
2 more.
We've got 2 more. So today we're covering something that comes up quite a lot when people come to us, because a lot of people that come to us have actually managed to successfully win retained work with existing clients. Sometimes just one-offs, and sometimes people are able to do that fairly consistently, and yet they haven't managed to do that with new clients. And there's quite it's quite a common misconception that we've found, isn't it, Jordan, that people think that they have to have that relationship, that existing relationship.
Yeah, well, I think they think that because there's trust there, that's the reason they're able to secure retained revenue, right?
And we were looking at our experience, and the vast majority of, if not all of, the retained projects that I won, certainly in the early days, were all with brand new clients that we had never worked with and I'd never worked with before. And yet with Jordan, it was different for you, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the first probably 5, 6, if not more, retainers that I won were with existing clients, customers that I built that relationship with, that trusted me. I think you talked, Lou, about there being maybe a misconception that it has to be an existing client. I think that is a big misconception. But firstly, there's no doubt having the trust of the client does help, right? It greases the wheels, right? And it means they take on
Agreed.
board advice and feedback more readily. But it certainly isn't essential in both of our experience, I would say.
Yeah, that's it. And quite early on is that you don't have to.
I think Lou, your internet isn't the best. This is the problem with moving
Sorry,
hills.
is that my internet?
Yeah, I think we've got you back now.
Okay, hopefully it'll be okay. I've had a problem with it over the last couple of days, which is very annoying because, as you know, Jordan, it's incredibly expensive. But yeah, that it isn't essential, and that you can actually win retained work from scratch, from the start, with a brand new client that you've never worked with before. But the question is, how do you do it? If you haven't got that trust and you haven't got that existing relationship, how do you make it make sense to them? How do you make it comfortable enough for them to step into? How that rapport in a short space of time to be able to do the right thing to do. For me, it's about helping them to see why they're facing the challenges that they're facing at the moment. So what it fundamentally, I know we say this a lot, but if a client is getting what they want when they want it, and it's an enjoyable process at the moment, firstly, why are they talking to you?
Yeah.
Right, in the first place. Because they should really just carry on doing what they're doing. It makes much more sense for you not to muddy the waters. And sometimes you have to ask that question to get to the bottom of what the problem is and why they're even inviting the conversation in the first place. But almost always, when hiring companies are using a contingent model, they're having a hard time in some way, shape, or form. It's either quality or quantity, or time to hire, or getting bombarded with people, or not having enough activity. And just by asking the right questions at the diagnosis stage, you can get to the bottom of what's not working.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, and actually, I mean, I'll take over from there. And I would totally agree with Louise. And in my experience, even when I sold my first retainers to existing customers, they didn't buy the retained solution because they trusted me. They bought the retained solution because they had a challenge and a problem, because I was working on given positions on a contingent basis. And the model meant that I wasn't able to deliver consistent success because of the challenges I faced with those positions. So again, yes, the trust helped. Then it meant they took on board my advice and they listened and we worked in partnership. But the trust was not the reason they bought the retained solution. It absolutely wasn't.
So in both those cases, whether it's an existing client or whether it's a new client, it doesn't, if it isn't yielding the results that they're looking for. And that's the basis of the recommendation that we put in place and a different way of working.
Yeah, and actually, if you look at the idea of building trust, right, in any relationship, for me, the way you build trust is by acting in that person's best interests and by ensuring you put their needs front and center of the decisions that you make. If you're speaking with a customer, existing or a new customer, we have an obligation as recruiters to make sure the consultation we give them, the advice that we give them, is purely focused on delivering the results they need and expect. And actually, are you really building trust if you recommend a contingent solution, even though you might not be confident that you can deliver results on that basis? I would argue not.
Exactly. And once you're able to get in the position of retain solving the problem, whatever that problem is, whether it's quality or quantity or to deal with, or the fact they're not getting the results, whether it's you that's, then it's logical. And as Jordan said, it's your duty to explain how you can solve it and what you can do differently in order to produce a different outcome, providing that you've got the confidence that you know you have a process that you can put in place that will do that.
Yeah.
And that's important, isn't it? It's not a good idea to deliver it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I found out the hard way, right? I was there, just say yes, I'll do it, and figure out how to do it later. And actually, it's almost impossible to build something that's scalable on that basis. You have to have the delivery nailed down. Yeah, and actually, we started by, didn't we, talking about the idea of trust being a bit of a misconception, but everything we do, if we do it in the right way, builds that trust. Delivering is absolutely essential in that. You've got to have a robust delivery process. And actually, I found, as I say, my first few retainers were sold to existing clients. But it was when I saw that delivery process working consistently, that's what gave me the confidence to go to new clients with this solution. That's what gave me the mindset of, I almost have an obligation. I'm doing them a disservice if I don't show them this way of working, because everybody wins on a retained basis.
Yeah, I felt exactly the same way. I have a question. Sorry.
All right, it wasn't
again.
of freezes of the face either. So
I think us anything.
Louis, I think you were just about to go to questions. Is that right? Lou, are you about to go to questions then? I think that's a yes. Okay, so let's go to our first question. I'm not sure who this is from. It just says LinkedIn user. But they've said, hi all, what are your thoughts on offering a retained search for the same fee level as your contingent fees? Yeah, good question. I can make a start with this one, and maybe Lou, you can jump in if you've got any additional thoughts. We're big believers in flexibility. And actually, in the initial stages, I think it's nice to make the solution as easy as possible for the customer to buy, especially when it's something new and they're stepping into what is often a new way of working for them. Working at the same rate as your contingent fee for the first assignment, maybe to demonstrate capability and to demonstrate new way of working. Yes, I'm fine with that. Assuming that once you've done that and you've demonstrated capability, the fees revert to your standard search terms, which may be a little more expensive. One thing I would never encourage, and we do hear a lot of it, unfortunately, it makes me shiver when I hear it. I would never encourage working on a retained basis for less than your contingent fee. Customers don't buy this because it's cheaper.
Yeah, I agree. I don't mind working at the same rate either, certainly initially, to give them the comfort that I'm not just an exercise to make more money, but on a long-term basis, it depends what rate you're working at, but it isn't always sustainable. You can explain basis, it needs to be sustainable for both of us. Did you catch any of that?
Yeah, caught about 80% of it. Yeah, mate, it might be worth you turning your camera off, Lou. Maybe.
Yeah, it's so annoying. I'm so annoyed. Okay, there we go.
There you go. Yeah, cool.
Just that on a longer term basis, you need to make sure that you get to a level that's sustainable for both of you, and it's okay to say that to the client. It's okay to be open about that.
Yeah, and I've found from experience as well that normally, well, in my experience, when customers experience the retained model, they experience the differing level of service, they experience the better results, they're normally okay with paying a more premium fee for that service.
Yeah.
That's why you've got to have the delivery nailed down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you take the pain away and they'll pay whatever you ask them for.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. But it's important to have that difficult conversation I found at the start. Yeah, especially when you're often trying to win a first retainer with a client, it's easy for us to cop out a little bit and say, do you know what, I don't want to rock the boat now and tell them that actually the prices will be going up after this, or I'll have that conversation down the line. If you don't front up and have that conversation early on, it can be very, very difficult to get those fees up on assignment 2 or assignment 3. You've got to set that expectation very early in the process.
Yeah, exactly. I'm in
Okay.
Anybody else got any questions? Sorry about my internet. It's very
okay, Charles, I think someone had sent us a question in beforehand, right? I don't know whether you could put that one on the screen, maybe. Yeah, okay. Yeah, good question. We get this a lot, and actually when we look back at trust, right? One of the reasons that a new client might not buy this or would have concerns about working on a retained basis is because they don't know you, and what happens if you just run off with our money? What happens if we financially commit to you and don't see any results and you just take the financial commitment that we've given you? I suppose I can go through and just give you how I would handle this objection. And to frame it first, the commitment here is mutual. And actually, our job as recruiters is not to pull rabbits out of hats and not to manufacture people that don't exist. We are in some ways limited as to what we can do for a client. And it's important that we're open and honest with them about that. So if a client gave me this objection, I would say, I totally understand. That's a great question. But let me reassure you that the commitment here is mutual. Your financial commitment to us, that's what allows me to commit in return to working with you until we reach a result. But we are dealing with people here. So I can't guarantee you that the result we end up reaching is going to be the exact result that we set out to achieve in the briefing meeting. Maybe the person you want doesn't exist. Maybe they do exist, but they're just not looking for any opportunity at the moment. But what I can guarantee you is that our process will be thorough, it will be rigorous, and it will be transparent. We'll share with you our workings and our progress at every step of this process. And if at any point we do need to re-steer, we need to look in a different direction, You'll make that decision based on fact and evidence and all of the work we've done so far. And that means that when we reach a result, you will be 100% confident that it is the very best result available to you in the market at this time. I'd then go on to talk about our success record. I'd say we haven't failed on a retained basis yet. And if I thought there was any chance that we would fail on this project, I would not be recommending this as the right solution. Will you let me demonstrate capability?
Nice. Very good.
So I think that's a mindset one, right, as well, Lou? I mean, I struggled with that at first because I used to feel that the minute a customer gave me financial commitment, it was like, oh, I've got to fill it. And that's kind of right. You do have to fill it. You have to stick with the customer until you reach a result. But as I say, you've got to be fair and set expectations right on yourself too, that there are limits to what we can do. We're consulting with the client here. We can't, as I say, find unicorns.
Yeah, exactly. But that's all in your delivery process, right? And that's where the confidence starts to soar. And as you experience, Jordan, the more confident you get, the less the trust matters. It's your confidence in your process that shines when you're explaining that this is what you want to do and this is why you want to do it, and you want the opportunity to demonstrate the effectiveness of this way of working with the client that's sitting in front of you, telling you that the contingent model is frustrating and not yielding the results they're looking for. And it all just starts to come together. And once you get used to that way of diagnosing it and recommending it and then delivering it, it becomes like really second nature, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I found that the confidence that the solution I was providing was insanely good, right, in terms of the delivery quality, and that I knew I could solve their problems. That confidence filtered into every conversation that I had with clients. But even if you just look at the way we handle that objection of what happens if you don't fill it, to sit there and say to a client, well, I might not be able to find you exactly what you're looking for, when was like a total 180 from what I'd all to do. It was like, well, of course I'll find you exactly what you're looking for. That's what we do. But having that conversation and being transparent and open and confident elevated my voice. The conversation I was having with clients was different to those that the contingent agencies were having.
There's a question in the comments. Recently landed a retainer for a replacement and got started before the client had paid our invoice. They then pulled out a few days later and retained the individual. Should I have waited for them to pay before gaining the interest of 5-6 people? Okay, there's a couple of things in there that are ringing alarm bells for me. Firstly, if you're in any doubt and it's a client you haven't worked with before, I am always happy to start in good faith, but I certainly wouldn't be making introductions to candidates.
Yeah, I agree.
The other thing is that if you're making candidate introductions a few days after commencing a search, then you're not running a retained process in the most robust way.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree. And also, I'm assuming that even if they haven't paid your invoice, I probably wouldn't start before they'd signed my terms of business. And I would hope that your terms would protect you in that instance anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yes, don't start until you have a signature. And if you're in any doubt, then yes, wait until the funds have been received. If you do start, great. That's fine. Start in good faith. You start your research phase, you start your identification phase, you start your approaching, but you don't feed candidates through or submit candidates, because you don't do that until you get to the shortlist stage anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. There's another one. Hey guys, do you feel that there's a minimum amount of experience that as a consultant you should have in recruitment before you can pitch retained, or is the track record of the company more important?
I don't know whether we'll have different answers on this one then. Go first.
So in my experience, I do think there's a minimum amount of experience. I do think it really helps to have at least a year and a bit in contingent recruitment. I don't think it's essential, but I think it really helps, because in most cases we're contingent model, and if you haven't experienced that model, it can be quite difficult to sell against. So for that reason, I think it helps enormously to have had experience of that model and its drawbacks. The track record of the business, again, you sometimes get the opposite experience, somebody with a lot of experience, but they've got no track record in that market or no track record as their brand new startup company, and they're both surmountable. Using your individual experience or the track record of the company to lean on is possible in both cases.
So I agree. I think it helps massively to have at least 12 months experience. But if I recruited someone into my search business now or my recruitment business, I would still want them recommending on niche, challenging, difficult assignments, recommending a retained approach to the customers, because irrespective of their experience, if they have financial commitment, it allows them more time and the ability to apply more resource to deliver a result. Although I agree, I think they might find that difficult and they'd need more support. Yeah, I agree with Lou. The more experience they've got, the easier this will be.
Yeah. But then you go to the opposite end and you do get, we work with some people that are 20, 25 years experience and so ingrained in their own ways and their own mindset that it can be just as hard as someone that is coming into it brand new with not really any preconceptions at all. So I think the people that find it easiest to transition are those that are the most frustrated with the contingent model. And it's the same with clients, whether it's a consultant that is learning this model and how to position and how to deliver it, or whether it's a client that you're explaining that you want to do this. The happier you are with the contingent model, the harder it is to move. And equally, inversely, the more frustrated people are with the contingent model, the easier it is to say, oh yeah, that makes sense. Why don't we do that instead?
Yeah, that's exactly where I was, right? I was, probably about 3 years into my recruitment journey, and I was absolutely pulling my hair out. Contingent model. I was done with it. To be honest, if I hadn't transitioned to retained, I was probably 6 months from leaving recruitment.
Yeah, I would have left. But I think what the question means is like, do you need that strength of track record? And the answer is no, basically. No.
No, but it helps.
It helps, but you don't need it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then we've got, what about if you work in a very candidate short market, as I do?
Amazing.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Get out there and get selling retained.
Yeah, exactly. Why do you say that, George?
Well, it depends on the circumstance, right? And it goes back to what we were discussing earlier about the reason we recommend this as a solution is to customers' needs and challenges. And if they're working on a contingent basis, they're getting what they want when they need it, they're loving the experience, why would they do anything differently? I would assume that if it's a very candidate short market, knowing what I know about the contingent model and how that forces us to work as recruiters, there are going to be lots of customers in your market that are not getting what they want when they need it, and they're definitely not enjoying the experience. So for me, that just presents a massive opportunity to go out and have the conversations and the discussions that probably most of your competitors are not having.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. In a candidate short market, it's often the only way to get anywhere near what you need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Ralph says, I have many candidates nationally I was going to answer the one before that, actually, Charles. That's okay. I have many candidates, thank you, nationally in accounting, audit, tax. Connect on LinkedIn. Oh, right. There you go. That's why she skipped to that one. Yeah. Do you guys have a pitch deck or something to share regarding on how you present? Yes, we do. Absolutely. And lots and lots and lots of other things. We'll happily have a chat with you about that, Ralph. Just head over to our website and our diaries are on there. Book in, let's have a chat, and we'll talk you through it. River, that's a cool name. Hello, have you had any experience with retained blue collar trade roles? Only on a multi-hire, high volume subscription basis is my answer to that. What about you, George?
No, I haven't, unfortunately. No.
Volume campaign work, which is retained. It's not executive search, but it's still retained solution. Works well at that level.
I mean, although I say I haven't had experience, one thing I would say, just more generally speaking, is that we talked about one of the big misconceptions being that you need to have trust with the client in order to position retained. And hopefully we've gone some way to dispelling that myth.
Mm.
One of the other biggest misconceptions that people have is that this is only right for kind of C-suite level executive roles.
Mm.
So speaking more generically, I'd say that is absolutely not the case. I've worked on a retained basis on 25k graduate roles and 500k VP roles and everything in between.
Me too.
It is just about, as I said, a solution to a problem. There's a theme here, right, about solving people's problems. And
yeah,
sometimes the more junior roles are the more difficult ones to fill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it can help, right, with especially with new clients, to prove yourself at mid-levels before going in for the C-suite.
Yeah.
But you don't need to do it on a contingent basis, because how can you solve the problem using the same model that's already failed?
Yeah. I mean, I think the advice I would give to any of you listening that are sitting there thinking, is this right for my market? Will this work in my niche? Is I would ask yourself, are the positions that you feel easy? And if the answer to that question is yes, then it might be more challenging. But I speak to a lot of recruiters, and it's very, very rare I speak to one that says, oh, so easy, what will you do? There's normally a challenge somewhere. And in that instance, your customers will be struggling and they'll have problems that they need solving.
Yeah, and it takes a different method, a different way of working to be able to solve it.
Yeah.
Which means it's a logical solution, whether they're an existing client or a new client.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good. Again, apologies for my internet. I might put my camera back on and say hello before I say goodbye. Hopefully it'll hold out long enough. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us today. We've got 2 more sessions in this series. Oh, it's not holding up.
Oh, it was.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, good. 2 more sessions in this series. I can't remember what the next one is. Charles, what is the topic?
I think it's selling retained to your existing clients. Yes, it is.
Awesome. So we'll love you and leave you. Follow us on YouTube. Book a call with us if you want to talk to us. As always, we love speaking to you and hearing from you and finding out what you're doing. Have a good day out there. Happy Easter coming up. Thanks, George.
Cheers, Lou. Bye.
Bye, everyone.